Hello guys, welcome to the session. Continuing with the TCS code beta questions, the question which we'll be seeing today is finding the kth largest factor. Okay, the question at first may appear to be very simple, but when you start solving it, you will understand that we need to know a lot of thing related to quants. Okay, you need to know about factors and numbers. Only when you know in detail about numbers, you'll be able to solve this problem. Okay, let me show you the question. Take a look at the question. A positive integer d, yes, a positive integer d is said to be a factor of another positive integer if when n is divided by d, the remainder is 0. Look at this point alone. When n is divided by d, the remainder should be 0. Okay, if n modulus d is equal to 0, that is what they are telling you here. If n is divided by d, that is n modulus d should give a remainder as 0. If the remainder is 0, d is a factor of n. Yes, this is the usual definition we give for a factor. Factor means if it divides a number, the remainder should be 0. That is a factor, right? So this is the first point said in the question. Look at the next point. For the number 12, there are 6 factors. What are the factors of 12? 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 12. There are 6 factors of 12. Okay. So now every positive integer k has at least 2 factors. Is that true or not? Even for a prime number 17. 17 has 2 factors. What are the 2 factors? 1 and 17. So for any number, there are definitely 2 factors, 1 and itself. Is that clear? For any number, there are definitely 2 factors, which is 1 and itself. Okay. So we know that how to find a factor. If n modulus d is 0, it is a factor. Next point I am telling you is any number has 2 definite factors. What are the 2 definite factors? 1 and itself. I hope the question is clear till this point. Yes, number, if it gives a remainder 0, it is a factor. Any number has 2 definite factors, which is 1 and itself. I hope I made it clear. Okay. Now look at the next line they are telling you. Given two positive integers n and k, write a program to print kth largest factor of n. You are going to develop a program to print kth largest factor. So what do they mean by that? Let us just focus on this line alone. Okay. If we are focusing only on this line, what are they going to give you? Two integers n and k, which are definitely positive. Positive integers n and k. Write a program to find kth largest factor of n. So we are focusing on factors of n. Okay. Let me explain with an example. Consider n is equal to 36. Yes, we are going to just assume n is equal to 36. They are speaking about factors of n, right? So what are the factors of 36? Factors of 36 are, first factor is 1, then 2, then 3 and 4, 6. After this, what is the next factor? Just go in ascending order. Don't consider random factors. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. Next factor will be 9. Next factor will be 12. And then 18. And last factor will be 36. Is that clear? These are the factors of 36. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 9, 12, 18, 36. Now, what is this 36? This 36 is nothing but the first largest factor. This is the largest factor, which is the first largest factor. Yes, if I arrange them in descending order, this will be the first largest factor. Then what about this 18? 18 will be the second largest factor, right? And what about this 12? 12 will be the third largest factor. And the series goes on. Can you understand this? When you consider all the factors, first largest factor is 36, second largest factor is 18, and third largest factor is 12. This is how the series is going to continue. Now, this k is nothing but the largest factor. Okay. For example, if k is 3, I want the third largest factor. This is what they say in the question. Take all the factors When I say 3, give me the third largest factor. What is the third largest factor? 12 is the third largest factor. Can you understand this? Yes. So you will be given a number. You are supposed to find out the specified largest factor of the number. Okay. So if you consider in largest format, first largest is the last factor, second largest is the next factor, third largest is the factor after that, like that the series goes on. Is the question clear? Try it with some other test case also. Let me say k value is 4. This is the first largest, second largest, third largest. So what will be the fourth largest? K is 4 means I want the fourth largest factor, right? What is the fourth largest factor here? 9 is the fourth largest factor. This is how you are supposed to calculate the values, okay? So try it with one other test case. Ninth largest factor. Again continue. 1, 2, 3, 4. Fourth largest, fifth largest, sixth, seventh, eighth, and this will be the ninth largest factor. Can you understand this? The ninth largest factor is 1. So when k is 9, I need the ninth largest factor. What is the ninth largest factor? 1. This is the problem statement. Okay. I'll give you a number based on the factors. You should tell which one is the largest factor. I hope the question is clear. This is a problem statement. Okay. Now take a look at the input and output. Yes, what is the input here? Input is a comma separated list of positive integer pairs. There are going to be two values for us, n value and k value. I've already told you what is n and k value. N is the number. For that number, you'll find the factors. K is the required largest factor. Okay. So if k is 4, fourth largest factor. If k is 5, fifth largest factor. Like that it goes on. Okay. So let us just get the input first. You have n value, you have k value. Yes. How are they going to give the input? Input is not separated by spaces. Comma separated. It is separated by comma. So when you get the input, percentage d comma percentage d. First get the n value, separated by comma, get the k value. Okay. N and k. Is this clear? Yes. What should be the output? Output should be the kth highest factor of n. Yes. So you are going to say if input is 4, fourth highest factor. If input is 5, fifth highest factor. Look at the next line of output. If n does not have k factors, if it does not have k factors, the output should be 1. What do they mean by that? See, consider the same number 36. 36 has first largest, second largest, third largest, this is fourth largest, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth and ninth largest factor. So I could give you output till 9 factors. If I ask you for 10th factor, if k value is 10, do we have any 10th factor here? No, we don't have any 10th factor, which is what they are telling you. If n does not have 10th factor, that is, if 36, the number we have considered is 36. If 36 does not have the 10th factor, output should be 1. Clear? Here 36 does not have k is equal to 10. I don't have a 10th factor. If I don't have a 10th factor, print the output as 1. Is the concept clear? If it is within the range, find the number and print it. If it is out of range, just print the output as 1. Is the question clear? Yes. We'll start working on the problem. First, think of a logic. Let us consider the number. The first solution is going to be a naive approach. Any student will be able to code the solution. Okay. Not just you or me. Anybody who knows the basic of coding will give you the solution. Yes. What would the solution be? The same thing which crosses your mind right now. What will be a solution? Consider the number 36. First, we'll find out all the factors of 36. Yes. When I find out all the factors of 36, the first factor will be the smallest factor. For 36, when I find all the factors, first factor will be the smallest factor, and the last factor will be the largest factor. This is how generally you'll have the factors, right? Now if you remember the question, they want largest factor, some largest factor. This will be the first largest, second largest, third largest, and the series goes on, right? So if you look at it, what will be efficient? Finding from the smallest factor will be useful, or finding from the largest factor? What do you think will be helpful for us? Where can I start from? Shall I start finding from smallest factor? If I find from smallest factor, I can count it as first smallest, second smallest, third smallest only, right? But I don't want it as smallest numbers, I want it as largest number. We want the first largest, second largest, and third largest, which means best solution will be starting from the right hand side. Start from the largest factor and proceed towards the smallest factor. Is the concept clear? Yes. Start from the largest factor. What is the largest factor? Last factor will be the largest factor. Can you understand this? Yes, I'm going to start from the largest factor. What is the largest factor? Last factor. And what is the last factor? For any number, the first factor will be 1. What will be the last factor? Last factor will be itself. Is that true? Consider the number 24. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 12, 24. These are the factors of 24, right? So the first factor will always be 1. Last factor is the number itself. Similarly, consider 16. 1, 2, 4, 8 and 16. So the first factor is 1. Last factor is number itself. So for all the cases, first factor will be 1. Last factor will be the number itself. Now, we have to start from the last factor, which means we should start from number. Can you understand this? If you want the last factor, start from number itself. Okay. We are going to search for factors. When you search for factor, start from itself. Okay, start from itself and proceed in the reverse direction. That is what we said here, right? Start from the last and proceed in reverse direction, which means factor value should decrease each time. It is not going to increase. Factor value will decrease. Factor minus minus. Until which factor? Until we reach 1, because beyond 1 that doesn't make any sense at all, right? If you reach 1, that will be your last factor. You will not have any factors beyond 1. So proceed until you reach 1. Is that clear? Start from the last factor, proceed till you reach 1, factor minus minus. Okay. Okay. So I cannot say any number in this range is a factor. Can I say 5 is a factor of 24? 5 is not a factor of 24. Why is 5 not a factor of 24? Because 24 is not divisible by 5. Okay. So how will you find a factor? We have already discussed these points. How will we find a factor? If you divide and get the remainder as 0, it is a factor, right? If you divide and get the remainder means modulus. If you divide and get the remainder as 0, it means you have found a factor. Okay. See, when you find a factor, what is our problem statement? We need not print all the factors. Yes, it is not necessary to print all the factors. It is only needed to print kth largest factor. So if k value is 4, if k value is 5, let us consider 5. If k value is 5, we need the fifth largest factor. So how will I know the fifth largest factor? If you find a factor, increase the count value. When you find 36, that is the first largest. When you find 18, that is the second largest. When you find 12, that is the third largest. Like that, whenever you find a value, count it. Okay. So have a variable named as count. Initially, if you don't have any factors, initially you will not find any factors. So initialize count as 0. So whenever you find a factor, count plus plus. Can you all understand this? Yes. Whenever you find a factor, count plus plus. Okay. So what is necessary? You should check whether this count value is equal to the k value. Can you all understand this? If I see I have the third largest factor, you should check it with k. What is k? Fifth largest factor. So find the fourth largest. Then when you find the fifth largest factor, print it and stop. Is that clear? If k value is 5, count until you reach the fifth largest. Yes, count until you reach fifth largest. Once you reach fifth largest, print the output and stop. Is it clear for all of you? Yes, okay. So, check whether count is equal to k. If count is equal to k, when I reach kth value, when you reach kth value, print that factor and break. Can you understand this? Yes, when you reach kth value, print the factor and break and come out of the loop, because once you find out the fifth largest, you need not find the remaining factors. It is not necessary. Yes, I want only the kth largest. So find the kth largest. When you find it, print it to the output, then stop. Don't continue to find the remaining factors. Okay. So when I find a factor, I'm printing it and stopping the process. Right. Now, there is one more scenario they said in the question. What is that? There is a chance that n does not have k factors, which means in the same problem, I might give it as k is equal to 10. Yes, for this same problem, I might give k is equal to 10. Do we have 10th factor here? No. What did they tell you? If you don't have the 10th factor, print the output as 1. Remember, this was already said in the question. If you don't have a 10th factor, print it as 1. That is, finally, if your k is greater than count, what is count? Count is nothing but number of factors. Yes, k is nothing but the input value. Yes, if your input is greater than number of factors, I cannot find the 10th factor of 36. Yes, the number of factors is 9. This will be the count value. But they are asking me for 10th factor. So what do I observe? K value is greater than the count value. What did they tell you already? If it is greater than count value, print the output as 1. Is it clear? If it is within the range, print the factor. If it is out of range, print the output as 1. Yes, I'm going to try it with 36. Factor greater than or equal to 1, factor minus minus. Okay, it is n, not num, it is n. Okay, it is not num, sorry. So now let me execute it. For 36, comma, first largest. Separate them by comma. First largest factor of 36. What is the first largest factor? 36 itself. Okay. Now, for the same 36, third largest. Look at the values. For 36, the third largest is 12. Let's see whether the output is 12. Which is right. Yes. Okay. Next. For 36, I'm going to find the ninth largest. What is the ninth largest factor? 1 is the ninth largest factor. You get the right output. Okay. Next case. For 36, 10th largest factor. Does 36 have a 10th factor? No. 36 have 9 factors only. So 10th factor means it is out of range. When it is out of range, what should you do? Print the output as 1. And it prints the output as 1. So the program works perfectly fine. Okay. What I'm going to do is, I'm going to avoid this scanf because I need the proper execution time. How much time does it take to execute? So to get the proper execution time, I'm just going to initialize the values. Okay, because execution time is taken along with the input time, right? Ignore the input time, just observe the time needed for processing alone. I'm giving the input on my own. Observe the time needed for processing alone. Yes. What is the time needed here? 0.144. Okay, I'll execute it one more time. That is the perfect timing. Okay. 0.108. We need 0.108 seconds to get this output. Okay. So now take a look at the constraints. We missed one part in the question, which is the constraints. What are they telling you about constraints? Constraints is nothing but the range of values. Your input might be in this range. That is what they are telling you. Okay. So constraints is for for n value. N will be in the range 1 to 10 power 10. This is nothing but 10 power 10. K will be in the range 1 to 600. Okay. Let us analyze the range alone. Take this part alone. See, n will be in the range 10 power 10. 10 power 10 means that cannot be stored in an integer. Yes, it can be stored in a long integer. So I understand n requires long integer. Okay, n requires long integer. So when you scan n, use percentage LLU. Okay. Okay, it requires long integer. What is the minimum value of n? What is the highest value of n? See, least value of n is 2. Why 2? Because I don't have equal to here. Less than n. 1 should be less than n, which means 1 is not included. So the least value of n is 2. Similarly, the greatest value of n is 10 power 10 minus 1. 10 power 10 less than 10 power 10. So 10 power 10 is not included. So the greatest value is previous of 10 power 10. What is previous of 10 power 10? 10 power 10 minus 1. So the answer will be okay. Similarly, k requires integer. If k value is still 600 only. 600 means it could be given within an integer. What is the least value? 1 less than or equal to k. Less than or equal to k means k is also included. 1 is also included. So the least value is 1. Greatest value is 600. Can you all understand this? K requires an integer. Least value is 1. Greatest value is 600. And what is this 10 power 10 minus 1? 10 power 10 minus 1 is nothing but 10 nines. Okay, minus 1 means fully nines. How many nines should you have here? 10 nines should be present. That is your greatest value. Okay, a perfect program should work for all the values within the range. Yes, be it the least value or the greatest value, it should work for all the values in the range. So now I am going to provide some custom inputs. Alright, I will provide some custom inputs, which is I will create some input cases on my own and analyze whether a program works for such cases. Alright, so my first input is going to be n is equal to 7 nines. Okay, I have 7 nines followed by 12. So in this input case, what will be your output? See, one thing you should know is this number has 12 factors. Okay, this number has 12 factors and I'm asking the 12th largest factor. Can you understand? It has 12 factors and I'm asking the 12th largest factor. See, for 36, 36 had 9 factors. What was the ninth largest factor? 1, right? In descending, you will move for 36 or consider 2. For 2, we have 2 factors, right? For 2, we have 2 factors. What is the second largest factor? 1. Similarly, for 4, we have 3 factors. Third largest factor is 1. So, always nth largest factor will be 1 itself. Can you understand this? If I have 12 factors, 12th largest is 1. If I have 20 factors, 20th largest factor is 1. So here we have 12 factors. So 12th largest factor is 1. Can you all understand this? Which means I am finding the last factor of the number. 12th largest factor is 1. So let us give this input. N is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 nines. I want the 12th largest factor. What is the 12th largest factor? 1. Take a look at the output. Okay, look at the time, 0.352. Last time it was 0.108. This time it is 0.352. From now on, don't look at the answer. Answer is perfectly right. Look at the number alone. Okay. So factor is also initialized as n, right? Factor is initialized as n. So factor is also a long integer. Since factor takes n value, if n is long int, factor is also long int. Okay. So let us try for the next test case. Next time, I'm adding one more 9 here. Can you see that? From this input, I've added one more 9. This value has 48 factors. Guys, I already did all the calculations. Okay. So I know this number has 48 factors. And I'm asking you, what is the 48th largest factor? You can directly tell me the answer. If this number has 48 factors, then the 48th largest factor is nothing but last largest. What is the last largest factor? 1 is the answer. Can you understand this? When the input is 48, number has 48 factors. So the 48th factor will be 1. Shall we check that? I'm adding another 9. K value is 48. So the 48th largest factor, last largest factor is 1. Look at the execution time, 1.648 seconds. You observe that execution time is gradually increasing. From 0.108, it changed as 0.352. Now it is 1.648 seconds, right? Okay, let us not stop here because we haven't reached the maximum limit. Okay, so I'll continue. Add one more 9. Okay, from 1929 I'm adding one more 9. K value is 20. Again, this input number has 20 factors. I've calculated it already. If you want, you can also check and see. Okay, this number has 20 factor. So the 20th largest factor will be 1. That is familiar for us, right? 20th largest factor should be 1. Let me check that. I'm adding one more 9. Number has 20 factors. So the 20th largest factor should be 1. Look at the execution time. Okay. I think it is obvious already there is a huge time gap here, right? I gave the input and I get the output at 14.426 seconds. Have we reached the maximum limit of input? We haven't reached the maximum limit. Remember the maximum limit? The maximum input limit is 10 nines. Yes, 3, 6, 9 and 10 nines is the maximum input. Here we have worked only with 9 nines. I have only 9 nines here, but maximum input could be 10 nines. Can you understand? So let me see what happens if I give the highest input possible. In your program, the highest input possible is 10 nines. Okay. For this one, the number of factors is 48, guys. I've calculated already. This number has 48 factors. So what is the 48th largest factor? 1. For this number, 48th factor should be 1. So I'll add a 9. 48th factor. The 48th factor should be 1. Take a look at the execution time. See, it is going to take at least 2 minutes. Okay. So don't think that the program is not working at all. It is working. It is continuing the execution. But since our input size is huge, I need the input as 10 nines. Since the input size is huge, it keeps executing. Even as I continue talking, the program is still executing. See, I already told you, if you have seen the previous session, you would have known this. If you have problems like this, in an online compiler, it will not work at all. What will an online compiler say? Time limit exceeded. Because in an online compiler, we will be given a time limit of say 5 seconds or 10 seconds. Maximum will be 10 seconds, guys. From 2 seconds to 10 seconds, The time limit may vary. Okay, so the maximum will be 10 seconds, and all your test cases for your program, all the test cases should finish within those 10 seconds. That is the criteria for any online compiler. For online compiler, it will track the time taken. If it is more than 10 seconds, the program will not wait at all. It will directly tell you the output as time limit exceeded. Yes, but here I'm using code blocks. This is not an online compiler. This is a software which I've installed in my system. Yes, so this is a offline compiler. So this does not have any time limit. I haven't set any time limit for this. So this will wait until we get the output. Do you understand the difference? An online compiler will wait until time limit is completed. Yes, but the offline compiler will wait until it gets the result. It will keep executing until the result is obtained. Is that clear? So when I give the huge input like this, when I give such a maximum possible input, it does not stop. It keeps executing. It is trying to find whether I can get the answer or not. Can you all understand this? Yes. So if you do the same thing in your exam, definitely your test case will fail. So what do you understand from this? Your program is not efficient. The program which we have created here, taking all the factors and counting them, that is not efficient at all. Efficient as in time is not efficient. This is not the optimum time you are using. Yes. So how can you find the efficiency? You have to improve the efficiency, which means you should reduce the time taken for this program. How shall I reduce the time taken for this program? We need to know a little bit of max here. Yes, let us consider, okay, sorry, yeah. So, since this is not efficient, I'm going to tell you the second solution, which is using arrays. We are going to use a solution 2. This solution makes use of arrays. I'm going to store some values here. So what are those values? How can we store them? I'll show you. Guys, if you have seen the prime number problem, you will consecutive prime sum problem. I would have already told you that factors can be divided into two sets. I've said this already. Factors can be divided into two sets. Those who haven't seen it, don't bother. I'll explain it once more also. I'm not moving on an assumption that you know it already. I want you to be very clear with the topic. Okay. See, consider the number 36. What are the factors of 36? 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 9, 12, 18 and 36. These are the factors of 36. You will write it in a linear format. You will write it in a straight line. Yes. What I'm going to do is I'll write it as a pair. I'm going to form it as pairs. Factors of 36 is divided into two pairs A and B. Okay. The factors will be divided into two pairs A and B. Right. What I'll do is 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. All these will be in set A, and 6, 9, 12, 18, 36 will be in set B. Can you understand what I've done here? Yes, I'm not writing them as linear format. I'm writing them in pairs. How do I derive this pairs? See, my idea is 1 into 36. What is 1 into 36? 36 itself. 2 into 18. 2 into 18 will give you 36. Next one, 3 into 12. 3 into 12 will also give you the answer as 36. 4 into 9. 4 into 9, the answer will be 36. 6 into 6. If you take it as 6 into 6, your answer will be 36. So what do you observe here? The entire set of factors, the whole set of factors is written in pairs. How do I choose the pair? Choose a pair A comma B such that A into B gives you the original number. Can you understand this? Choose a pair A comma B such that A into B gives the original number. So when I choose 1, I'm going to choose 36. 1 into 36 is 36. 2 into 18 is 36. 3 into 12 is 36. Similarly, I've derived all the pairs. Is that clear? So what do you observe here? all values in A, all the factors in A is less than or equal to 6, right? All factors in A is less than or equal to 6 and all factors in B is greater than or equal to 6. This is a common understanding from this data. A values are less than or equal to 6, B values are greater than or equal to 6. So what is this 6? How is it related to 36? This 6 is nothing but square root of 36. Square root of 36 will give the answer as 6, right? So the 6 is nothing but square root of 36. So what do you observe here? Set A's values. Values of set A is less than or equal to square root of 36 and values of set B is greater than or equal to square root of 36. Is this clear? So what do you understand from this? For any number, not just for 36, for any number, consider 24. Factors of 24 will be 1 into 24, 2 into 12, 3 into 8, 4 into 6. That's it. I have all the factors. So what is the square root of 24? The square root of 24 is 4.89 something. It goes on. Okay. Square root of 24 is 4.89. Take the integer part alone. Integer part is 4. So I can say that square root of 24 in integer terms is 4. Right. So now you observe in set A, this is set A. In set A, all values are less than or equal to 4. What is this 4? Square root of 24. And in set B, all values are greater than or equal to 4. Can you understand the concept? Yes. For any number, I can divide them into two factors, into two sets. What is the first set? Less than or equal to square root. Second set is greater than or equal to square root. Okay. That is what we need to understand. Factors can be divided into two sets. Set, for example, 24. I can divide them as 1 into 24, 2 into 12, 3 into 8, 4 into 6. Yes. This is what we call as first one is set A, second one is set B. Can you understand this? For any number this is applicable, not just for 24, not just for 36. For any number, factors can be divided into two groups. So what do you observe from this? Values are less than or equal to square root of 24. What is the square root of 24? Integer 4. Okay. So our understanding is set A is less than or equal to square root. Set B is greater than or equal to square root, which is greater than or equal to 4. Is that clear? Okay. So dividing means you will divide it into two sets. Sets A and B. And set A is less than or equal to square root. Set B is greater than or equal to square root. This is one understanding we get. Yes. And my next understanding from the problem is I'm going to take this data. Okay. And I'm going to tell you that this is set A and B, right? This is set A and this is set B. Okay. So I'm going to tell you that sets A and B are dependent on each other. Okay. Set A and B are dependent on each other. That is, if one value is known, other value can be calculated. Do you all understand this? Do you all agree with this? If I know this 2, I'm telling you I can calculate 12. If I know this 3, I can calculate 8. How does it happen? See, what is 1 into 24? The product is 24. Next product is also 24. 2 into 12. Next product 3 into 8. 24. Next product 4 into 6 is 24. So what do you observe? A value of A into B, set A into set B. product will give you the original number. I hope you all agree with this. Yes, this is a natural rule in maths. Okay, when you multiply the two values, your answer will be the original number. So, what can you say? How will you calculate A? A is equal to number by B. Right? A is nothing. A into B is number means A is equal to number by B. Similarly, B is equal to number by A. Can you understand this? When you divide them as two sets, I can say A is number by B and B is number by A. Okay. So this is the second understanding. So based on set A values, you can derive set B values and vice versa. Right. If you have set A, if I tell you 1, 2, 3, 4, you will be able to calculate 24, 12, 8 and 6. Or if I give you 24, 12, 8 and 6, you can calculate 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, either way is possible. Now, first understanding is divide them into two sets A and B. A is less than square root, B is greater than square root. This is the first understanding. Second understanding is finding a factor from set B, you can use set A. Okay, based on set A, we can find set B. How can we do that? See, B is equal to number by A. Why? Because the product of two values will give you the original number. So B is equal to number by A. Based on the input value and based on set A value, we can calculate set B's value. Is that clear for all of you? Yes, this is the logic I'm going to implement here. Okay. So what is the algorithm you can use here? You need not calculate all the factors. From this we know that instead of calculating all factors, what can you do? You can calculate factors of set A. Right. Instead of finding out all the factors, find the factors of set A. Store it in an array. Okay, find the factors of set A, store it in an array. Now, to find the factors of set B, you need not run the loop again. You can calculate factors of B based on factors of A. I've already explained how. Yes, based on factors of A, we can calculate factors of B. Is this clear? So find factors of A, store it in an array. Based on this A, find factors of B, store it in an other array. This is the logic we are going to implement. Have I made it clear? Yes. Find the factors of A, store it in an array. Similarly, find factors of B, store it in another array. Okay, so here yes, guys, look at it. We have the output. Remember, I started the execution before explaining this concept, right? I get the right output 1. For your naive solution, we get the right output 1. But look at the execution time. 235.577 is approximately equal to 240 seconds, which is 4 minutes. This has taken 4 minutes for execution. Definitely time limit exceeded. Yes, this will not be an accepted solution at all. This is our naive solution, the first solution which we worked out. So this is not going to work. Now we are going to implement this technique, dividing them into two sets. Okay, let's start coding now. Yes, so let all the values remain. Okay, so this is the base. N value is already known. K value is 48. What is the time needed? 235 seconds in naive solution. Okay, in naive solution, that is in the first solution, we required 235 seconds. Now I'm going to implement this technique and see the execution time. Is it clear? First solution needed more time. Now I'll implement solution 2 and see how much time is needed. Okay, so here what did we say in solution 2? Don't calculate all factors, calculate factors of set A. Where does set A lie? Less than or equal to square root. Okay, so I'm going to search for factors within the square root. Factors less than or equal to square root. Factors plus plus. Is it clear? So we are searching only in set A. Is that clear? Don't search for all the factors. Search only within set A. So how will you find a factor? That is usual. If n modulus factor is equal to 0, it means I have found a factor. Can you all understand this? Search within square root only in set A. Find a factor. When you find a factor, what did I tell you? Store it in an array. Calculate the factors, store it in an array. So I'll have an array named as set A. Array is named as set A and say the size is 100. Okay. Set A has a size 100. So what will I do here? Have a index. Have an index and a count value. You need the number of elements also, right? So long int. To avoid confusions, I'm writing it here. Okay. Set A has an index value and a count value. Is that clear? In set A, we'll have index and count value. So what is the initial index? Initially, index is set as 0 and count is also set as 0. Guys, instead of using two variables, you can use one variable also here. Okay, but I don't want you to get confused. So I'm using two variables. Okay, so index value and count value, or we'll finish off the program only with count itself. Okay, just have count value. Yes, so initially we don't have any elements, so count is 0. When you find one factor, what did I tell you? When you find one factor, store it in set A. Set A is 0th index, right? Count is 0, so store it in set A's 0th index. Store the factor in 0th index and increase the count value. Can you all understand this? Yes. Store it in 0th index and increase the count value. Okay. So now what will happen? We will have all the factors in set A. Shall I check that? Starting from 0th index less than A count index plus plus. I'm just going to print the values of set A. Set A of index. Can you understand this? Within the loop, I'm finding all factors of set A and I'm printing it, right? So here, we'll work with a smaller number, guys, then we'll come back here. So let me consider n is equal to 36. Input n is 36 and k is equal to 1. Yes, what are we doing? We are printing all the factors in set A only. Yes, for 36, what are the factors in set A? For 36, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 should be the output. Okay, so I'll calculate less than n. Okay, factor. Okay, I've declared a factor, factors. Sorry about that. Okay. Factors, I've just confused with the S. Don't bother. For 36, we get the elements of set A. What are the elements in set A? 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. Can you all understand this? I've calculated set A values. Now, what did we say in the algorithm? Based on set A, calculate set B. We already know this. How can I calculate set B based on set A? See, we know that A into B will give the original number, right? Write it here. A into B will give us the original number. Now, we have A value, right? We have the values of A. Now, how will I calculate B? The number is given as input. Num is given as input. We have calculated A value. So, how will we calculate B? B is equal to number by A. Can you understand this? B is nothing but number by A. So, what we can do here is, for each A value, not just for one value, for each A value, calculate the B value. Can you understand this? For 1, calculate B value. For 2, calculate b value, for 3 calculate b value, and this goes on. Okay, so here whenever you have a value, calculate the b value. How will I calculate b value? Have a variable named as b. B is nothing but number divided by set A's value. Okay, so after this you can increment it. Look at it, b is nothing but number divided by set A's value. Okay, so when you calculate it, you need to store it in an array. Calculate the factors, store it in an array. Okay, after finding all the factors only I can tell the answer, right? So find the factor, store it in an array. So have an array called as set b, store it in set b. Can you all understand this? We are calculating b value and storing it in set b. After storing it, b count plus plus. Is that clear? First store a value. Based on a value, calculate b value, store it in an array, b count plus plus. That's it. Okay. So similar to a, have b also. Long int set b of 100 comma b count. Okay, so I've calculated sets a and b. Now I'm going to print set b also. So after printing set a, another for loop to print set b, b count, set b of index. Okay, similar to set a, I'm printing set b to show you the difference /n. Clear? Printing set a's values, new line, then set b's values. Okay, let us give the input as 24. Okay, so what happens for 24? You are dividing them as 1, 2, 3, 4, 24, 12, 8 and 6. First we will calculate set A's values. What is set A value? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, based on set A, we will calculate set B value. Yes, so based on this 1, first factor is 1. Based on this 1, what will be calculated? 24 will be calculated. Can you understand this? With this 1, you will divide 24 by A. 24 by 1. What is 24 by 1? 24 itself. Next time, based on this 2, we will calculate the next factor. So, 24 divided by 2. What is 24 divided by 2? 12 will be the next factor. Similarly, with this 3, we will calculate the factor. With 3, what is the next factor? 8 will be the next factor. Next with 4, what will be the next factor? 6 will be the next factor. So if we observe, set A is in ascending order, increasing values, but set B is in descending order. The values keep decreasing. Can you all understand this? First time it is increasing. For set B, the values will be decreasing. Is that clear? Yes. So, I am going to print and check whether we get this output. N divided by, okay. It takes infinite time, which means I have done some mistake here, which is B count is not initialized. Yes, that is the fault. B count should be initialized, right? Similar to A count, B count should be initialized as 0. Sorry, my fault. So I'll execute this again. B count initialized as 0. Now you take a look at the output. Set A has 1, 2, 3, 4. Set B has 24, 12, 8, 6, which is exactly what we said here. Can you all understand this? Yes. Set A and B 1, 2, 3, 4 followed by 24, 12, 8, 6. And look at the execution time 0.106 seconds. So now I have all the factors. What is our duty? We need to find the kth largest factor. Can you understand this? Yes. So if you look at it, there is still one more thing we are missing here. When I calculate the factors, there is a mistake I'm doing. Can you identify that? When I calculate the factors, there is some mistake I've done here. This shall not work for all the numbers. This will fail for some numbers. Can you identify for which number? I have done this for 24. This will fail for the number 36 because 36 is a perfect square. 36 has 6 in both the sets. Can you understand this? For perfect squares, one factor will be present in both sets. In set A as well as in set B, what is present? The 6 is present. Is it clear? Similarly for 16, consider for 16 also. When you consider for 16, divide them as two sets. 1 into 16, 2 into 8, 4 into 4 and 25, 81 for any perfect square, the value will be repeated. Is this clear? Okay. So what should you do here? For perfect squares, this common value, the common value should be present either in set A. Common value should be present either in set A or in set B. That is up to you. You code it however you want. Either have it in set A alone or have it in set B alone. In this program, for the program which we are developing, we will have it in set A. Can you understand this? Yes. For the program which we are developing, I am going to have it in set A, which means set B will not have the duplicate value. Can you understand this? Yes, since it is present in both cases. See, I need the factors only once. When I write the factor, I'll write 6 only once. But since we are having it as two sets, 6 may be present in both the sets. To overcome that, I'm going to say I will have 6 only in set A. I will not repeat it in both the sets. Okay. So, when you store it in set B, repeated value should not be stored in set B, right? How will I know it is a repeated value? If set A's value is equal to the B value. See, set A is nothing but for 36. Consider n is equal to 36. Okay, consider num is equal to 36. Yes, what will I do here? I'll find a factor. Let me say the factor is 6. Okay, loop is executing and the factor is 6. What will be set A's value? Set A will have the value 6. When I try to calculate B, B is nothing but n by A value. That is what we said. B is n by A value. So B is 36 by 6. What is 36 by 6? 6. So if you observe, set A and B have the same value when I reach the square root. At the square root, set A and B will have the same value. What did we decide? We'll store it in set A only. Yes. So when can you store it in set B? When will you store it in set B? If the values are not equal. If the values are not equal, store it in set B. Okay. If the values are equal, don't store it in set B. That's it. Can you all understand this? Yes. So now let us work for the number 36. When I work for the number 36, look at that. 6 is present only in the first set, not in the second set. So, I have all the unique values. Yes, all unique factors are collected and stored either in set A or in set B. Can you all understand this? All unique factors are collected and the values are stored either in set A or in set B. Okay. So now what should you do? We are going to find the kth largest factor. Okay. I'll remove all these printers. We just need to find the kth largest factor. How can I find the kth largest factor? See here, set B has highest factors, right? Set A has the lesser values, set B has the higher values. So, in set B, I have first half of largest factor, okay? In set B, I have first half of largest factor. In set A, I have second half of largest factor. Can you all understand this? Yes. I divide them into two sets. In set B, this is the first half of largest factor. In set A, second half of largest factor. So based on K value, we will print a value from set B or from set A. That is purely dependent on the K value. Can you all understand this? Yes. Based on K value, choose a value from set B or choose a value from set A. Okay. So we'll do that now. We have the array. For 24, I have set A and set B. What will be present in set A? 1, 2, 3, 4. And in set B, the reverse. 24, 12, 8 and 6. Clear? These are the values in sets A and B. Indexes will be 0, 1, 2, 3. To avoid confusion, I'll split this. Okay, so I have two sets, set A and set B. Now, when I say K is 1 means I need the first largest. So we will access set B. Set B is 0th index. Right? When K is 1, access set B, get the 0th index. First value is the greatest value, right? When K is 1, go to set B, access 0th value. When K is 2, go to set B, access first index. Right? First index is the second largest. When you need the third largest, it will be in set B at second index. If you need the fourth largest, it will be in set B at third index. Is it clear? If you need the fifth largest, it will be in set A. Why? Because set B has 4 elements only. Okay. So the first 4 elements will be in set B. Can you all understand this? Yes. So how will I know where to check? If K value is less than or equal to 4, check in set B. If K is greater than 4, check in set A. Can you understand this? If it is less than or equal to 4, we will check in set B. How will I know that? Because set B has 4 elements. Okay. This 4 is nothing but number of elements in set B. So, your condition will be if K is less than or equal to number of elements in set B. Where do we store that? In B count. B count stores the number of elements in set B. If you have it as less than or equal to B count, then element is in set B. Can you understand this? Yes. If K is less than or equal to 4, if K is 4, then I have it in set B. If K is 5, I don't have a fifth element in B set, so I will go to A set. Is that clear? Yes. So, if it is less than or equal to B count, it is in set B. So, print of percentage %d an element from set B. Which element? Can I choose any random element? No. You need to choose correctly. How can I choose it? If K is 1, access 0th index. If K is 2, access first index. If K is 3, access second index. So generally, K minus 1th index. Can you understand this? Yes. If K is 1, first largest is at 0th index. Second largest is at first index. So based on K value, access K minus 1th index. I hope I made it clear. Yes. So print of K minus 1th index. Okay. What will happen if we come to this else case? If it is less than or equal to B count, element is in set B. When you come to else case, element is in set A. You understand this? Yes. When you go beyond B count value, it means it is in set A. So how can I access? In set A, okay, just to avoid confusions, I'm adding brackets here. Okay, if it is less than B count, set B, otherwise it is in set A. So print of an element from set A. Which element from set A? See, when I say fifth index, It means the first 4 are gone in set B. Can you understand this? See, it's your logic, guys. My way of understanding this is when k is 5, it means I want the first largest in set A. Can you understand this? Yes. 4 elements in set B are not needed. Okay. When k is 5, 4 elements in set B are not needed. I need the first largest of set A. Yes. These 4 are not needed. Take the first largest of set A. Similarly, when k is 6, 4 elements in set B are not needed. Take second largest in set A. Can you all understand the logic? Ignore the elements of set B. When you need the required elements, ignore the elements of set B. Work for the remaining. Can you understand this? This is how I approach the problem. Not the compulsory approach, but my way of approach. Okay. Ignore the elements of set B. So from K, ignore the elements of set B. So if set B has 4 elements, ignore the 4 elements. Okay. So what happens now? I'll remove these 4. So K value will be only for set A. K value will not be for set B. I'm considering only the elements of set A. Yes. So if K is 5, I'll eliminate the 4 largest elements. So K value will be 1. So when K value is 1, I need the first largest in set A. Can you understand this? When K is 5, ignore the 4 elements in set B because those are not needed. Ignore the 4 elements in set B, K value becomes 1, which means I need the first largest in set A. How can I access the first largest in set A? Last index, n minus 1. Similarly, when K is 6, we will subtract 4. Ignore the first 4. So, when you subtract 4, K value is 2, which means we will need second largest in set A, which means index is n minus 2. Right, largest will be at last index. For set A, largest is at last index n minus 1. Second largest is at last previous, which is n minus 2. So what do you observe here? This is nothing but n minus k value. If you need the first largest, n minus 1. If you need the second largest, n minus 2. So this is n minus k, not the original k. After subtracting, we will have a k value, right? So here, number of elements in A minus k. Can you understand this? After subtracting, we will get a k value, print that value. Is this clear for all of you? Yes. So, whenever you have it within the range, it will be in set B or it will be in set A. So, find out where you have the value. Based on that, you can print the answer. There is one more case to be handled. What is that? For 36, they might ask you the 10th factor. Remember, 36 has 9 factors. They might ask you the 10th factor. If they ask you the 10th factor, it is out of range. For out of range, print 1. Remember this? We read this in the question. If the count is out of range, print the answer as 1. So how will I know? I should see whether k value is greater than number of elements in A and B. The total factors is nothing but number of factors in A plus number of factors in B. That is the total number of factors, right? Okay. Total factors. How can we calculate total factors? Total factors is nothing but number of factors in A plus number of factors in B. So, if k value is greater than total factors, if k value is greater than total factors, it is out of range. What should we print for out of range? We should print it as 1. If it is within the range, we can check these conditions. Can you understand this? When it goes out of range, print it as 1. If it is within the range, find the value and print the value. That's it. This is a problem. Okay. So this is my second solution. If you remember, for last, okay, first we'll check whether it works. For 36, I want first largest factor. For 36, the first largest factor is 36. You get the output as 36. Okay. For 36, I want the third largest factor. What is the third largest factor? 12. We'll check that. We get the output as 12. Yes. For 36, I need the ninth largest factor. What is the ninth largest factor? 1. Okay. We'll check that. We get the output as 1 working. And if I say 10th largest factor, 36 has 9 factors, but here we are asking for 10th largest factor. We don't have a 10th largest factor, so output will be 1. So the program works fine. It gives me the right output. Now what should you do? You should check this to the maximum extent. What is my maximum extent? Remember last time we gave the highest input possible. Highest n value followed by 48. Your expected output is 1. Remember in the previous program, in the naive solution when I executed, it required approximately 235 seconds. Yes. So now I will see in this solution how much time is needed. Yes. Same input guys. Look at that. N is 10 nines. K is 48. Let me see how many executions are required. 0.252. Do you observe the time difference from 235 seconds? In this program, I need only 0.252 seconds, which means definitely a program will pass. I've given the maximum input possible. I've given the last factor only, not even the first factor. For the maximum input, last factor is given, which means even for the worst case, it takes only 0.252 seconds. So your program is completely optimized. Is that clear? Yes. So as I said in the beginning, you have to be comfortable with a little bit of quantitative aptitude also. Yes. When you see the previous programs which we solved, some of the problems include probability combinations, and from now on we may have problems related to permutations also. Okay. So if you have to clear this TCS code beta, don't focus only on the technical part. The technical part is very simple guys. You are just using a for, if and everything, right? So don't focus only on programming part. Improve your knowledge base also. Learn many concepts in quantitative, because I can't define that these are the topics you will need. These are the topics which are not necessary. There are no such conditions. They may ask anything. Okay. To be on the safer side, learn everything. And one more thing, here I have used sqrt. As I always say, avoid using inbuilt functions, right? So instead of using sqrt function, what should we do? We have seen the previous problem, you would know this. Instead of using sqrt, I'll write it as factors into factors less than or equal to n. How did I write it? For those who don't know, I'll explain it. See, generally, square root of 36 is equal to 6. Yes. To remove square root in max, what will you do? Squaring on both sides. Will we do this? Yes. If you have to remove square root, squaring on both sides. So squaring on both sides will give it as 36 is equal to 6 into 6. Can you understand? I don't want this square root. To remove square root, squaring on both sides. So 36 square root is gone, but 6 is squared, so 6 into 6. Similarly, I had it as factors less than or equal to square root of number. So to remove the square root, what should you do? Squaring on both sides. So when I square it on both sides, what will happen? Factors into factors less than or equal to number. So the square root is gone, which means I don't have to use any inbuilt function. Without this inbuilt function, I'll get the right output. Take a look at the output. Without the input function, we get the right output. And the execution time is also decreased, 0.130 seconds. I hope I made it clear. If you have any doubts, please join us in the doubt clearing session. I'll explain everything in the doubt clearing session. Yes, thank you.